G'day folks, if you've got a Jayco, trying to think, from about 2004 to about 2008, they, on the lights, the marker lights or clearance lights, they had these white, believe it or not, that was a white rubber backing plate, and the sun does that to them. They basically blister and burn and become brown. So today I'm going to show you how to change over to a new LED style Narva light that it's clear, but it has a red and a amber globe inside. We'll also look at other things like replacing your handles and the corner trim that runs down in the J mold. So yeah, that's the meaning of this video today. All right, now we've just taken the center screw out of there, and then you're left with the backing plate and the wiring. So you just need to remove, there's a screw there and a screw there, we've taken that one out, and then undo the two little screws that are holding the wiring in.
Yeah, that's really hard to do.
Pull the wire out, and then the other side. Pull it off. Okay, once you remove those four screws, you can take the metal plate off, then you're left with the wiring sticking out of the van, and these will be siliconed on. So they just require a little bit of force to get them off. If the little black plug comes out of the van, just push that back in. That's a good thing to have there as an insulator between the sharp metal and the live wire when you've got the lights activated. All of this here, silicon, can be cleaned up. I'll show you what I use to clean it up, and we can go from the next step. All right, I've got a couple of tools that I use. This one I would say don't use. This is it's a king chrome, but it's a razor blade. Really good for getting things off glass. Not so good on this sort of material, because what it'll actually do is chip the paint. The silicon that they use seems to have a bit of acid in it, and so that line around the edge has actually etched into the paint just slightly. So I use one of these paint scrapers or something to that effect, and it's just plastic. Now, you can go around the edge and basically get all of the loose silicone off, and it takes a little bit of elbow grease. It's not that hard. The other thing you can do is try something like, I've just got a Meguiar's bug and tar remover, something like that that'll get any sort of gummy glue type things off. So just a little bit of elbow grease, a bit of time, and you'll be able to clean that up. I'll show you one that I've done. All right, that's as clean as I could get it. I was just using, I guess, auto polishers, and there is a little line in it. And as I say, I reckon the silicon's slightly acidic. So the next thing is to fit our base plate. Now, there's a trick to all of this. First of all, make sure you put the wiring through the base plate, because otherwise you'll have it wired up and you won't be able to get the backing plate on there. Now, the other thing is, the actual light itself, which is here, this is, so these are LED lights, and they have amber one end and red the other. You'll notice that the wiring isn't in the middle where it plugs into the light. So we have to ignore that hole and ignore that hole. In fact, that hole won't get used at all, and I'll show you what to do about that. But we have to lower, depending on which way around this has to go. Let me just have a look. Amber at the front, so it has to go that way. So we have to drill lower holes so that this part of the light, this part here, can go into that black hole. The other thing I do is I cut off about half of the wiring here. We don't need all of that. And I cut off these little bits on the ends of the original wiring. Okay, so that's the next step. So as I was saying, with the wiring going into the back of this, on this side of the van it's mounted with that up the top. And that's because you need the amber light at the front. This is the left-hand side of the van, by the way. And the red light at the back. It has to be that way around. On the other side of the van, it would be rotated, so to get the red light at the back and amber at the front, in which case the lump will be at the bottom. So we have to these are the two original screw holes. We have to actually drill one a little bit lower, and once I've mounted that one, I can use this as a template to put my second hole in. Now, in that process, I have found 4mm aluminium rivets to be probably the neatest way to mount it, for two reasons. A, it's aluminium on aluminium, which is great. There's no electrolysis. They fit beautifully in the holes on this particular bracket. But also, you need something that's going to sit very flush in here, because there's not much room in the back between the plate and the light itself. So I'm using rivets. Suit yourself if you use something else. So what I've got here is this rivet hole is slightly lower than the hole where most of the wiring's going to go through. I'll also put a bit of silicone in behind here. So let's do that. Just going to put silicone around the very edge of it. We don't have to go crazy. By the way, this silicone is a neutral silicone, because some silicones will eat away at the paintwork. They release an acid as they dry. So you need to make sure you get a neutral one. This V60 from Bostik is pretty good, I think. Takes a little while to dry, especially this time of year. So I'm just going to line up my rivet. There we go. Now obviously you don't need a pneumatic riveter. I just happen to have one, so I'm going to use it. Right. Now I'll just get it nice and level. I'm going to use the outermost hole, because there's 4 across there. Doesn't take much to go through these things. Okay, that's riveted on. It's not going anywhere. Just using a rag, I'll just clean up the edge of the silicone. All right, so the next stage will be joining the wiring. So I have cut the little clips off the end, or the little metal bands that were on the end of the wiring, and I've shortened this one. So the brown wire is the positive and the black wire is the negative. I'm going to be joining them using these little heat shrink joiners. I find them easy and effective and quite strong. So that'll be the next step. Okay, so these little joiners, I'm using the red sized one. So you just slide one wire in so that the bit of wire that's stripped is in the metal clasp that's in the middle, and then the same on the other side. They can be a little bit tricky to get past the other wires. So once they're in like that, you've got 2 bits of wire that are side by side. You hit it with the heat gun, the whole thing shrinks, including the metal tab in the middle clasp, which I'll do now. Now there can be a temptation when using a heat gun like that to wait until just the plastic on either end is melted. You really have to get some heat into that metal clasp in the middle, and it has a low melting temp, and wait until that's actually melted and grabbed on. But now that will be very, very strong. We can feed this back in. Yeah, it's not too hot. You can see why I cut off some of the wiring. It gets very long. And then that will clip in. Done. Okay, to get rid of this hole here, which was an extra one because the light was so much bigger originally, I'm using some large flange rivets. There's a white one, just a matte white, and you can see they've got quite a big head on them. This one's a bit bigger hole, but I've drilled it out and slipped and scratched. Don't do that. I will put some silicone in there, and then I will rivet that on there. I'll do that now. Give it a bit of a clean up. A wet rag's much better than a dry one for silicone, but that's worked quite well. Looks like it's supposed to be there, and I'll show you what the light looks like. So that's the original light, just ignore the ratchet strap. And then the replacement LED. And this is the LED Narva light, so the N602W. The W I think stands for white. So that's the light itself, if you're looking to buy one. These particular Narva lights, excuse me, come with this bracket, this backing plate or bracket in a few different colours. So I've got the white because most things on the outside of my van are white. You can get it in black and you can get it in chrome. I think that's it. There might be a grey one, but don't quote me on that. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I think it's a nice upgrade for these vans. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is new handles. You can see I've already removed one of the handles here, just because they get quite grubby and they just don't age very well. Once again, it's the plastic. So that'll be in my next video.